Today we will focus to our EO browser, a free web application for working with satellite imagery, which allows you to do all the browsing through available satellite images, do the analysis, and download the imagery all in one place. The presentation will be given by my colleagues Daniel Tix and Monia Shebela. So without further ado, I'm giving the word to Daniel to start with the presentation now.
Also, warm welcome from my side. I'm going to present you the agenda first. So what is your browser? We will start with. Then I will let you know how to search and view mosaicked imagery before we take a look at custom visualizations. And then I will conclude the first part with the educational themes and will hand over to my colleague Monia, who will explain you everything about polygons and statistics and all about pins. Then she will show you the 3D feature and how to create own configurations. And at the end, she will show you how to download imagery and how to create beautiful time lapses. So what is EO Browser? As Sabina already said, EO Browser is a search tool for satellite imagery, including the famous Sentinel and Landsat satellites. And you can use it to visualize, modify, and probably most interesting for a lot of you, download the images. It's open source and you can find it on our GitHub repository. And we also have on our homepage at explore/your browser own subpage for your browser where you can find our user guide, some videos we previously recorded, and also the license at the bottom. And we are really proud that your browser is coming for non-commercial use and media use, that it's free. And if you want to use it in media, the only thing is you should mention that the images were created with Sentinel Hub EO browser and that cite the data collection used properly. Having EO browser for free is really important as we want to raise awareness with this about remote sensing data and encourage everyone to use all the available majority of satellite data that's out there. And it's also there to show all the possibilities there are with our Sentinel Hub services. Now that I talked a bit in general, let's jump to the app itself. It's accessible at apps.sentinel-hub.com/EO browser. And when you first open it, you are presented with this welcoming message, which includes a small tutorial that guides you through the most important features. I will close it for now as my colleague and me will guide you through the app. But in case you close it by accident, you can always access it again by pressing the small info button on the top right corner. The app itself is structured in 3 parts. On the left side here, you see the sidebar, which is used to select your data and also the visualization later. It has at the top here, you can see this small drop-down menu, which lets you switch between different languages. And we are really happy about already 5 languages with more to follow in the next weeks and months. Next to it, you have the login button, where you can log in into your free user account, which becomes really handy when you want to access more advanced features and save your own pins. More to this later from my colleague Monia. The main part of the app is taken by the map that you can just interact like you're used to from other map apps. You can change the location by panning around. You can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, or at the bottom right here, the plus and minus to change the zoom level. This is also where later the satellite imagery will be shown. And then in the top right corner here, we have the location search and a lot of different tools that we will also explain to you in the course of this webinar, what the tools do exactly. Now, how to search for data, how to get to your visualizations. you need to be in the first tab on the sidebar here called Discover tab, and then in the Search tab, and then you will see already all the available data sources listed here, and you can see we have the Sentinel data, we have the latest Landsat data, but also some digital elevation models, data from the Copernicus services, and yeah, many more. So really check this out in detail. We will now search first for Sentinel-2 imagery, and with Sentinel-2 you have this advanced search here, which when you toggle it, it will open a small submenu where you can switch between the L1C and L2A data source, but also set a cloud filter, which we will set for the first example now to 50%. So to only get images returned that have less than 50% cloud coverage. Then at the bottom here, you will see the time range where you can specify the date which you are searching for. We will set this now to 1 year, and then use the filter by month function to search only for the second half of the year. Once you are happy with the settings, you just have left to click search, and a second later you will already get presented with the results, once in the list view, which you can see on the left side, where you get a small preview of the satellite image tile, but also some metadata like the date when this image was taken, the exact time, the cloud coverage, and some more. When we zoom out a bit, we see that actually the tiles are also presented on the map. And when you click on one of them, you see that all images that cover this tile are presented in a list. And then you can just select the one that you are most interested in. We will select now this because it has a very low cloud coverage. So we will see a lot on it. Once I select it, it will immediately load. And what you see now that I actually selected only one tile, but that we mosaic the tiles of the same orbit together, and you get presented the whole image from that orbit. When we zoom in a bit, you will see that there are labels also from the places names, and on the top right corner, we have our layer menu, where you're able to switch off the labels and also have some more options. You can turn on borders, and then you will see on the map borders displayed, or a roads label. What you can also do, you can just turn off the whole satellite image itself, and then you will just be left with the background map. But let's leave it with the default settings, the labels turned on, and the Sentinel-2 image. What you now see on the map is a true color image, which you will also see on the left side in the layers view here, that the true color image is selected. But you also see actually much more layers that are combination of different bands and that are pre-prepared for you. And you can just switch between them by clicking on them, and then a second later, this layer gets loaded. For example, now this false color image. All the layers come with a short description, what they are actually showing. This can be expanded by these small 2 arrows here, and when you click on it, you get a short description of what this layer is actually showing. When you select a layer like the third one, the normalized difference vegetation index, which shows in index, when you check there, the description, you will see that those layers also come with a legend that's displayed then here on the left side. In case you are not 100% happy with the visualization and you want to modify a bit, you have here at this symbol the option to change the effects a bit. You can set the gain value. For example, if it's a bit too dark, you can set it a bit brighter, and you can also switch the gamma and some more options like the different bands. But let's leave it this also at the default settings now and go back to our layer visualization. In case you want to switch the date because you want to see how it looked on a previous acquisition, you can easily do this with the date selector up here by just using the arrows to get the previous image, or you can click on the calendar and then you will also get presented all the visualization dates that are available for this area. Looking now at I prepared another layer for you already here, again, a true color visualization. And you can see that actually only half of the screen is covered with our satellite image because the orbit ends here. And if you want to combine different orbits, you can do this using the timespan feature here, which will expand, and then you can increase the time span. For example, let's say we want images from the 16th of March till the 31st. And when you then click apply, then we combine images from two orbits and display those both at the screen for you. But let's close this again for now and zoom a bit in. So you see on the left side here all these different pre-prepared layers. In case this is not enough and you want to create some own band combinations, this is of course also possible using the custom option at the bottom here. When you click on it, you will see there's three options. One is the composite option, the index, and the custom script. And I will explain now to you all in detail. The composite option enables you to create a simple RGB composite by dragging and dropping the single bands into the channels. And if we use the band 4, 3, and 2 from our Sentinel-2 satellite, we get the true color visualization, as you can see now also updated on the map, as these three bands hold the RGB values. When you check now the custom script holds a script that actually represents the same true, or has as output the same true color visualization. So you can see as input we have band 4, 3, and 2, and also here in the return we have those three bands. The custom script gets immediately updated on the fly. So if we change the band 4 against the band 8 in the first channel, we will see that we get a much more red image. These custom scripts are like a really cool option to create your own band combinations and visualizations, and are really powerful. And they are such a big topic that we can't cover them in detail here, but we created for you our own webinar on them, which we will link in the description below later. And I just encourage you to check this out if you are interested in custom scripts. Also connected to the custom scripts is the data fusion and multi-temporal scripting, which allows you to combine data from different satellites with each other. For example, S1 radar data with optical bands from the Sentinel-2 satellite. And this is also quite a big topic. So we have our own webinar prepared on this called Multi-Temporal Scripts and Data Fusion, which we will also link in the description below. The last thing left in the custom options for me to show you now is the index feature, which allows you to recreate either a normalized difference index or just a simple band ratio. And it works again as the composite option that you can just drag and drop the bands into the formula, and you will already see the map got updated. We can change the color that's used for visualization here. And for those of you who are a bit more advanced with indices, they will realize that this is a water index, and we can see also on the map that the water got nicely classified as blue. For the index feature, we have also a small tutorial, which you can find on our homepage under explore/education, where we also have a lot more material on education and also a nice tutorial on the custom scripts. Before I give over to my colleague Monia, I want to show you a bit more in detail about education themes. So let's go back here. And when you are in the default mode, you will see all these data sources here. And when you start with remote sensing, this might be a bit confusing and a bit lot, and you don't know where to get started. And this is why we prepared a bit more simple mode of your browser for you. You can access it by the small education head in the top right corner, and then switch to education. And then you will see the data sources disappeared, and it says, please select a theme. These themes are connected to different topics, and when I click here, they, the drop-down expands, and I get displayed all the available themes. We have monitoring Earth from space, we have agriculture, atmosphere and air pollution, change detection through time, floods and droughts, geology, ocean and water bodies, snow and glaciers, urban, vegetation and forestry, and volcanoes and wildfires. And these themes should be a help for you to get started. And you will see in a second what I mean with this. Let's select for this case the wildfire theme. And you will see now that there's only 3 data sources left, which are often used to visualize wildfires. As example, we will take a look at a wildfire close to Los Angeles. So I go to the location search in the top right corner, type Los Angeles, and I see already the options prepared here. And when I click, it will take me to Los Angeles. And then the fire is a bit northeast of Los Angeles, so somewhere around here. And I want to show you actually not a L2A visualization this time, but let's select L1C. And then the fire occurred last year in September. So we select the September of last year, which you can do either by selecting the date in the calendar menu here, like I just did, or by typing it in the text box here. Now that I selected the date where I know the wildfire occurred, I can hit search and get again presented with different search results. So let's select one. And we will see the true color visualization already. You can see some smoke here. And what you will realize now that with the education themes, the layers that are displayed on the left side here, they actually change. So with each education theme, you get a pre-selected set of layers that are specific to that topic and that are, can be nicely used to visualize the data connected to, in our case now, wildfire. So let's check some of those visualizations. For example, the atmospheric penetration, which is really nice to see through the smoke. So when we select this, you will see now that in the area on the left side here, where there was previously only smoke visible in the true color image, we can now actually see through the smoke kind of and see the ground. Then we also have a wildfire layer, which highlights the area that was already burned in this more brownish color, and you can also see really nicely supposedly more active parts of the fire highlighted in the orange color. If you now don't know about a specific event or location that you want to investigate, we also have you covered. If we go back to the Discover tab, and in our wildfire theme, you see that next to search here, we have a tab called Highlights. And in this tab, we actually already selected a lot of interesting locations and visualizations for you. Overall themes, more than 150. And this can be used as a starting point to investigate what you can actually do with wildfires. So all of the highlights, they also come with a description, which you can see by expanding the layer here with these arrows again, and then you can read a bit more about the visualization. So let's check the first one, the wildfires in Croatia. When you click on it, you get taken to the location and the date. And we can see a nice visualization of a wildfire here. We are just finished with the education themes, and I will now hand over to my colleague Monia, who will continue with the polygons and statistics.
Hi, everyone. So the first thing we will take a look at are some polygons and statistics in EO browser. To do this, we are going to take use of education themes that Daniel just talked about, and I'm going to go under agriculture, and I will select the agriculture in the Veneto region, Italy highlight, which by default has a barren soil visualization turned on, but I'm going to instead turn on the EV index, which if you expand the description, you are going to see that it is a vegetation index that is optimized because it also corrects for soil background signals and atmospheric influences. Now, EO browser has it already set up for all the pre-prepared visualizations, which return only a single value that you can check the statistical information. I will now zoom in to see the specific fields a bit better. Okay. And you can do this in several ways. So you can take a look at the statistical information for any point on the map by just selecting this pin tool on the right. And then you can select any pixel that you like. And immediately you are going to see this little graph icon display. You can also click on this center map on feature, which is going to center this pin to the center of your view. If I click on this graph, the statistical information for the enhanced vegetation index displays. And what I can do, I can lower the cloud coverage so that the clouds do not confuse my statistical information. And I can select, for example, 1 year of data. And then I can see how the EV index changed through the past year. When everything is loaded, you can click Export CSV to download the file. But you can also select each of those acquisitions, and you can check additional information such as the mean value, the minimum, maximum, and more. So by selecting the lower cloud coverage, we are actually filtering out the tiles which are covered by clouds, so you get a more realistic statistics. The other thing that we can do, we can, instead of just checking for a point, we can check the statistics for a whole polygon. You can do these two ways. You can upload a polygon in these files that are listed here, KML, KMZ, GPX, and GeoJSON. Or you can draw it using this little pencil icon. You can draw any polygon you like, for example, like this. And then again, you're going to see the option to zoom into it, and you're going to see the feature info service chart enabled. When you click on it, I already have it loaded here because it can take a couple of more seconds for the whole polygon to load. And you see how the EV index changed through the year in this whole polygon. Then the next very useful thing that you can do, you can also measure distances. But for this, you need to be logged in. There are certain features that require you to be logged in, but don't worry, log in to EO browser, and registering to EO browser is free. So you just click on this little login button to log in, and then you will be able to access also the measure tool. So if I click on it, I can drag, and immediately as I drag, you can see the kilometers over here. And if I click again, then it is also calculating the polygon that I'm drawing. If you draw the polygon, you also get the area of the polygon displayed. Another way that you can show the visualizations, so they are already pre-prepared for all the layers in EO browser that return one value. This essentially means indices. So from this list, you are going to have it for NDVI, EV, moisture index, but you are not going to get this option for the RGB composites such as false color. If I click on false color, you are going to see that the graph, the statistical option disappears. If you would like to calculate statistics for, let's say, an index that is not on the list, something of your own, you can easily do that. You just go under custom script, like Daniel showed, and then you would use a script of something like that. You would simply calculate the index. In this case, this is the NDVI index. You can use our custom script repository to find a lot of those. And then you just returned it. And as you can see, it is displayed in grayscale. But what is also very useful to do is check whether if you have a Sentinel to L2A, this is very handy because you can check whether the cloud mask band equals 1, then that means that there were clouds, and then you can return the not a number. I would now, for example, draw a polygon somewhere, and then I would show the graph the same way as we did before. You would see it shown. And now what would happen if you didn't filter for clouds? I also have this example over here. You would see that all of those low values are actually tiles which were covered by clouds, which skewed the statistics. And if you compare them, you can see that correcting for clouds is a very useful thing to do. All right, the next thing I would like to show you is how to deal with coordinates. We have a little polygon over here. So the first thing is on the bottom, you can see the latitude and longitude. Oh, and that is not of the polygon or anything, but this is of your mouse cursor. As you can see, when I'm moving the mouse cursor, they are changing. So this is one way how you can see those. Another way is that in the URL, you can see the zoom level, you can see latitude and longitude, and this is actually from the central point of your view. And the zoom, it is important because for different collections, different minimal and maximum zoom are available. So if we zoom out enough, we are going to get an error that will say zoom into view data. Okay. And then what is very useful, it's a very useful trick. Let's say that you would like to, for example, you would like to have a true color image of this exact area. But then in another tab, I will duplicate this tab. For example, you have accidentally moved to the side a little. It is then quite difficult to exactly match them up. But in that case, it is a very handy trick that I use a lot to just copy the zoom, latitude, longitude, and just replace them over here, or vice versa, depending on which viewport you would like. And then they will be the same. As soon as it loads, you can see they are now the same. Another very useful thing, when you draw any polygon, you can also copy the coordinates to your clipboard by clicking on this copy to clipboard icon. And when I do so, the GeoJSON information gets copied to my clipboard. I will now quickly jump to our request builder application. For you not familiar with the request builder, this is an application for working with the Sentinel Hub Process API and OGC API. It gives you a user interface so that it is easy to use. It was explained in detail in other webinars, namely in the Process API webinar. But it is very useful if you want to, for example, if you are used to working in EO browser and checking your visualization, and you would like to transfer your polygon to the API, you can simply just copy it into this window and click parse. And your polygon will instantly appear on the map. So this is also very handy. All right, let's check to the agenda and see what we have to cover next. So next, we are going to talk about pins. So pins are a very exciting feature of EO browser. To demonstrate that, I'm gonna go to Discover tab, Snow and Glaciers theme. And I will select my favorite glacier, Glacier Gray in Chile, and zoom in a little. Okay, so any visualization that you have, you can save for later. And this is called that you create a pin of it. Let's say that we want to now create a pin of this exact visualization and view that we see on the screen. You would just simply click on this little add to pins pin icon on the left, and immediately it is going to be shown. I will clear my pins for the second so that we are going to have it more ordered. The pins are going to appear in your pins tab on the top right, and you can edit them. If you click on this little pencil, you can rename them and save your renaming. You see the acquisition date, you see some latitude, longitude information. you can delete the pin. And then if you click on this little arrow below, you can also add a description to the pin, such as, for example, glacier gray, natural visualization, and then you save it. And now that pin also has a description that you can expand. Let's create a couple of more pins. So I went back to the Visualize tab, and I will also create a pin of this false color visualization, which displays vegetation in red. And then I will go back, and I will also pin the snow classifier visualization, which if you expand, you are going to see that it displays the snow areas in blue. And now in the pins list, I now have 3 pins. I can reorder them by clicking on these little dots over here in any order that I like. The pins that you have, it's very important that if you can create the pins even if you're not logged in, and you can export them and everything, but if you want them to save to your account for later, you have to be logged in. Otherwise, if you are logged out, you will get a warning message that your pins will be deleted as soon as you close the browser. Okay, so you can also export pins. If you click on this export icon over here, all of your pins in your pins list are going to be exported into a JSON file. Let me close this. And in the same way, you can also click import, and then it expects a JSON file of the same structure. So you can, for example, export your pins and then send them to your friend, and then they can import them, and they will instantly add to their pins list. So not replace it, but add to it. Another way to share pins is to click on this share functionality, which is a bit more, it has this function that you can also deselect pins. You can click, for example, deselect all, and then you can also share one single pin, which is especially handy if you have, for example, 100 pins in your account, but you would only like to share 5 pins. Then when you click create a link, you are going to be presented with a link that you can copy to clipboard. And then if you go to a new browser window and paste it in, the EO browser is instantly going to ask you one pin is going to be added to your pin collection. If I click OK, I now suddenly have 4 pins because I added one. Another useful thing, any visualization that you have, you can create a short link of by clicking on this share button and clicking on this copy to clipboard. This creates a very short link. It is only this long, so that you can add it into your websites or anywhere. The next very cool thing that we can do with pins is create pin stories. This we do by clicking on this story icon on the top left of the pin tab. And then all the pins that are covering the area that we are currently viewing, so only those, are going to be used. So if we were now to move, for example, to New York, we would not see any pins over here because we only have them of glacier gray. And all of them are used, but you can deselect them. You can deselect the pins that you don't want. You can rename them and add them titles. And they're going to be shown in the same sequence as they are in your pin list. So you should reorder them over there. You can also enable the captions, which will enable the labels, the borders, and such. You can show the title of each of them, and you can also enable the legend. I have prepared over here an example of a pin story where I have several Sentinel-2 visualizations. I have a natural one, I have a false color visualization which displays vegetation in red, an agricultural one which displays in more in blue, in green, snow classifier. Then I enabled the Sentinel-1 visualization, and I also have the global land cover, water bodies, and Aster Geodem. Then I can set the speed over here. I think that the speed nice works fine with 4 stories. I click play, and you can see the story unfold. And if we see over here, for example, if we scroll back a little, you can see that the legends are also displayed. When you are happy with your pin story, you can click download, and the GIF file will be downloaded to your computer. If you're wondering how I got to my visualizations something else, another collection, so you would just go back to discover, then you would get back to default. This is how you get back to from the education mode. And then, for example, you could select, let's say, the Aster Geodem, visualize, and then pin it, and it would be added to your pins list. And if it's of the same area, then it will show in your pin story. The last very useful feature of pins is that you can compare pins. And to compare the pins, we're going to go back to Discover, back to Search, and we're going to go to our change detection through time. So the change detection through time theme is one of those themes that combines before and afters from different collections. So for example, if we take a look at the famous RLC, we have an image from 2005, and then we have an image from 2019. Let's select the RLC in 2005, which, as you can see over here, was acquired by the satellite ENVI Satellites. And let's click pin. Then let's go back to Discover and select the other one from 2019, acquired by Sentinel-2, and also pin this one. Now in our pins list, we can add them to compare. We click those little double arrows over here, and instantly in the compare tab, we see number 2. So this means that 2 pins or visualizations were added to our compare. Now this is one way to pin them and then add them, but you could also just click it over here to this add to compare the visualization itself. Okay, so we have to add this one again. All right, now I will zoom out a little so that we see it well, and I will delete all the ones that we don't want. And now what I can do, I can drag this little slider, and I can compare the imagery of 2005 with imagery of 2019. As you can see, on 2005, the RLC was quite a large lake full of water, but in 2019, it has largely dried up. So you could also use the opacity option, where you could show it this way by changing the opacity. And if you go to Discover tab and you check the description, you can see what actually happened to the RLC. You can see that a major water diversion project was created, which was used for irrigating agriculture. And then as the lake dried up, the salinization increased, which in turn also made it so that it is heated faster and also in turn evaporates even faster, causing a positive feedback loop leading to the state that we are now. Over here, I have also another example. So you can also use this opacity slider to overlay different imagery, not only to compare. For example, over here, I have Aster Geodem of the Alps. And let's say that I actually want it colored by the Sentinel-2 imagery. I could simply just change this opacity slider a bit. And if I change it all down, I will then see Sentinel-2. And if I put it somewhere to the middle, I will see them combined. So this can also be very cool, but unfortunately, what you create in the compare is only used for compare and cannot be downloaded as imagery. All right, this concludes the pins. Let's jump to the 3D feature. So for the 3D feature, we are going to go to Volcanoes theme, and we're going to select Pacaya volcano, which is a very conical volcano. And you can see over here with this true color highlight visualization. And I'm going to click on this little cube to visualize it in 3D. So you can do navigation using your mouse, or you can use these navigation tools on the left. And as soon as it loads, we can zoom out a little, and then we can use the different navigation tools to move around. We can use these to turn. And we can also use this upper one to kind of travel around the world and view the 3D world. I also have another 3D example for you, which is over here. This is in Himalayas. And again, we can travel. And this is pretty cool. You can deselect the shading, the terrain shading if you would like. And when you are happy with your visualization, you just click download, and this is going to download a PNG image of what you see over here. So the next What I want to mention, we have one feature in EO browser which is not free to use, but it is very cool, and I just want to mention it quickly. When you see the visualizations such as this one, and you saw that we have a special one for every team, you can create such a configuration with custom visualizations and layers yourself. But to do this, you would need a Sentinel Hub account. And then I will not go into detail in how you can create your visualizations, because we have already covered this in detail in our OGC webinar with QGIS integration. We are going to link to that. But there is also in the Sentinel Hub website, if you go to develop and FAQ, here you can find several questions and answers regarding EO browser. And one of them is also the collection. How do I visualize my own collection in EO browser? And over here, you can see how it is done. This was written for the commercial satellites, which you can also purchase and work with, which have amazing resolution of 0.5 meters. And it is explained over here how to create a configuration with them, how to create a new layer, and then how to visualize in EO browser. The only difference is that you do not select bring your own data layer if you are not working with commercial satellites, but something else. But for this, check out the webinar. All right, let's get back to our EO browser features. So the next one we're going to take a look at is the data download. If you click on this download image over here on the right, you have 3 tabs available. The first one is just the basic tab, which is enabled for anyone, even if not logged in. And this is just going to download either a JPEG or PNG image of what you see in your viewport. You can choose to show captions or not, which is going to include also the scale, also the which collection it is. So you can turn this off. You can also choose whether you want overlay selected or not. And if you enable the captions, you can then also choose a description. If you click download, the image is going to be downloaded for you pretty quickly. However, if you are not logged in, you are not going to see analytical and high resolution print. But if you are, you can then also click on this analytical tab, which is very awesome, because here you can actually download data for analysis. Here you do not only have JPEG and PNG, but you also have different TIFFs. And for example, let's select an 8-bit TIFF. Let's select the high resolution. You can choose between 2 different coordinate systems. And then you can choose between all the visualizations that you have on the left over here in your configuration. And you can choose between all the raw bands, which are going to be downloaded as grayscale TIFF images. You can also clip the extra bands, if there are extra bands. And when I click, let's, for example, select several of those, and then I click download, I'm going to get a zip file with several different 8-bit TIFFs inside. The high resolution print tab allows you to download high resolution imagery. You can write a description. It is recommended that you select PNG because it's of higher quality. And then over here, this means that the image is going to be downloaded in 33 inches and it is going to be in a DPI of 300. You can change these parameters best to suit your needs, but know that downloading high resolution imagery can take a couple of minutes. The last feature that we will take a look at is the time-lapse, so that you can learn how you can visualize changes through time. For this, we will go to the urban team. And we will go to Taizhou in China. I hope I pronounced that okay. And then what I want to do, I want to go back to Discover and Default, and then I will select the Sentinel-1 imagery. So as you can see, I am often using EO browser education teams just to get to the locations where I want, but then I go back and select another collection, so they can also be very useful for that. I will stay with the first visualization and I will navigate to the end of the river. So now I see that the imagery is missing here, but as Daniel showed before, I will just use a time range to combine different orbits, and this problem is now solved. Now I'm going to click on this little create time-lapse animation button that looks like a movie film, and then I can, when I close this down, I can then zoom in a little and center it exactly as I want. Now the ratio of the time-lapse is always going to be a square. When you are satisfied, you click play. And then over here on the top, you can select the time range of your data. You can filter by months. And you can select whether you want 1 image per orbit, 1 image per day, week, month, or a year. The important thing to note is that time-lapse only allows up to 300 images to be shown. So if you're going to set this to, let's say, a 3-year time range and then say 1 image per day, you will get an error because this might be too many images, but that of course also depends on the collection. So in that case, it might be handy for you to choose 1 per month, for example. Then over here, you can also enable borders to be shown, and you can deselect any images that you don't like after you click search. This is especially useful if one of the images is not filling your whole viewport, but it is cut off, such as we had before, but then we used the time range. Or, for example, for Sentinel-2 imagery or Landsat, if you would have clouds, then you could deselect it to remove it. Down here, you have the speed. And when you're happy with your time-lapse, you can click download. I have one time-lapse prepared over here, where I chose 1 year of imagery from April 2020 to April 2021, 1 image per day. It is quite a lot of images. Down here, you can see there are 53 selected, and I have set the speed to 8. When I click play, you can see the ship traffic changing day to day, and you can also see the changes in vegetation, which are especially prominent at the beginning or in summer months. When you're happy, you can download it. And that concludes the webinar. Thank you everyone for being here.
Let's continue with your questions during the session. The first question was, is it possible to see the orbit number of the selected tile?
Let me answer this. This is unfortunately not possible.
And the second question was, someone have noticed that on his PC that the images sometimes change not well with timespan, have to often zoom backward and forward to make reappear mosaics. Is this due to his PC or what is the reason?
The reason for this can be that if the time span is very long, this might happen sometimes, or otherwise that it's problems with the internet connection that the images can't get loaded due to that.
How far back does the Landsat data collection go?
So currently we have Landsat 8, which goes back until 2003, but we are working on supporting Landsat 5 in a couple of months, which will then extend the period back to 1984.
Daniel, again, one question related to highlight step. What is the role of this step?
I guess it became then clear because the question was asked before I showed it, that the highlights are pre-selection from us, which show nice visualizations of interesting locations.
Lorenzo generally uses high-resolution aerial imagery and particularly for urban planning purposes. Does Sentinel expect better images in the future?
For this, I can recommend our webinar on commercial data, which explains all about the options of higher resolution data than the Sentinel-2 with 10-meter resolution that's integrated in your browser.
Pradeep was asking which GIS server is used in backend.
There's actually no GIS server used in the backend. It's our Sentinel Hub API that is used for all of this. And if you want to know more, we have a webinar on this. And so the Sentinel Hub API does all the satellite imagery processing. And this goes also with the other question that there was about if the data is stored somewhere or if we create it on the fly, and the different band combinations, what you put in the custom scripts, these all calculated on the fly.
Pradeep was also asking how the images are published in WMTS or in COGs.
The answer is the same as before, that it's the Sentinel Hub processing API is used for that, and just check the webinar out on that, which we have in our Sentinel Hub YouTube channel.
if it's possible to look older images since 2016 on the Sentinel hub and which satellite to select, which one do you recommend to do it?
Yes, this is possible, as mentioned before, with the Landsat collection, which goes back to 2003. But we also have MODIS data, which goes more back in time, and then with Landsat 5 once it's available.
Then we also had two participants. They were wondering what is actually the difference between EO browser and Copernicus Sentinel SciHub.
So the main difference is that with the Copernicus Sentinel SciHub, you can download the tiles, but not modify them instantly within the browser. And this is where your browser becomes really handy, because you can not only search for the tiles, but also modify them and combine different bands to create visualizations and get them instantly displayed on the screen.
How can one download the data in bulk for NDVI?
Here I can again refer to our Sentinel Hub API that does that, and you should check the webinar on this to know more.
Can one import their own shapefile into your browser and generate statistics based on that shapefile?
Yes, that's possible. Monia showed it. On the right side, you have a small button which lets you upload different formats. You can upload your shapefile as KML, GPX, or as GeoJSON, and then calculate the statistic on this shape that you uploaded.
Can you choose multiple polygons at the same time and average the value?
This is currently, unfortunately, not possible.
How can one copy-paste the location of the area which he's looking at?
So the easiest way to do this is to draw a polygon using the polygon draw feature that Monia also showed. Draw your area, and then in the menu on the right side, you also have a small symbol which, when you press it, copies the geometry, the coordinates, and then you can paste this somewhere else if needed.
If we do the pre-calculation of indices for all the image styles, or they are calculated on the fly?
This is what I already mentioned before, that everything is done here on the fly.
Salvador was wondering if it's possible to see an average period image for some air pollutants from Sentinel 5P.
For Sentinel 5P, this is unfortunately not possible, but for all other collections, you can do this with the timespan feature and a custom script.
Francisca was wondering how do her friends receive the export?
I was wondering if they receive the export through an email, or how they are warned that I am sending an export to them.
So when you create the export, it's a link, and when you send then your friend the link and he clicks or she clicks on the link will open in a browser window and open your browser, and then you get presented with a message to import the pins that you shared with your friend.
Okay, very clear, thank you.
So let's continue with other questions. Kostadin was asking about the pins as well. Is it possible to use file formats different than JSON?
This is not possible because the pins work with the JSON format.
Can we use different images from different satellites with the time-lapse animation?
In the time-lapse, this is not possible, but you can combine different collections with each other by using the pin story feature that Monia also showed before.
Or is it possible to store a legend in the downloaded image in maps received from scripts?
If you mean by stored that the legend is visible in the downloaded image, then this is possible. Yeah.
Abraham was asking how can we use this as WMS layer in QGIS? This was actually in the late part of presentation when Monia was explaining.
But connected to this, we also have a webinar which covers this nicely with the title OGC API with QGIS integration. So there we explain step by step how to do this, and I can recommend you to check this out for the exact steps on how to do this.
How can I download in the highest resolution possible? For example, 10 meters in the case of Sentinel.
So this is possible in the analytical mode, one of the 3 download modes that Monia also showed. You can select there the resolution, but the export is limited to 2000 times 2000 pixels. So when you select a really big area, you will not get the 10-meter resolution. So you need to, you can't select the too big area because that's not possible. But if you have a small enough area, you will get the highest resolution.
Can we zoom slowly instead of 5 kilometers step, which is quite big to select the good frame?
So in EO browser, the zoom levels are fixed, but if you integrate it using QGIS, there you can select the zoom level right at your wish.
Maurizio was asking if it's possible to filter by percentage of clouds.
Yes, this is possible once already in the data search with the advanced option that I showed at the very beginning. And if the collection supports it, it's available there. And also in the time-lapse, you have then cloud filter available.
Matea was asking how can she check the exact time of the measurements in case she has several scenes?
This is possible in the Discover tab. There we show the exact time of the single observations.
Here we have another question from Philippe. What level is the Sentinel-3 data?
It's the level 1 data of Sentinel-3.
Is the 3D model created directly from satellite image? Which one is the resolution?
The model is created from DEM data, right, which is available on Sentinel Hub as well, and it has 30-meter resolution.
Is it possible to extract specific features, for example, to overlay the sulfur dioxide cloud generated by a volcano eruption on a true color image?
So yes, this is possible. You can add both to pins and then to compare, and then in the compare mode you have you can have both the visualizations available.
Mohammed was asking, is data available for all global or only part of it? And Greg already answered this one. Most of the data is available globally. Can you also comment about the enhancements applied to the RGB true color images? How is the contrast stretched?
So for this, I recommend to check the description that we provide with each visualization layer, because there we provide the information on how the layer is created and also some links to more information on this specific answer to this question.
How is the SAR urban visualization created?
This is actually the same answer, and for a lot of the visualizations, we actually have our custom script repository where we have the exact script, for example, for the SAR urban visualization, where you can go and see exactly how it's set up.
If you expand the layer, you can see this description and also the direct link to the repository. I will just show you quickly. This is the repository, customscript.sentinelhub.com, Sentinel-1, urban areas. And here you can find the script and also the description.
Azadeh is asking, but in the RGB images, it seems to no enhancements are applied. He tried looking and couldn't find the information.
So in EO browser, let's open some Sentinel-1. This is simply created by just returning the RGB and multiplying each band by, let's say, 2.5. So if we go to custom script, you can see 2.5 times band 4, 2.5 times sample band 3, and 2.5 times sample 2. And that's it. That's all the enhancements they are. This is just to make the image a bit more brighter. But if you go over here, this gain is actually doing the same thing. It is brightening the image and the gamma is increasing the contrast. It is the same thing as if you were to say over here from the band minus, let's say 0.2, it is similar. I hope that answers the question.
The problem is that when I compare the image to the ones that I download from the Sentinel Hub, they have completely different contrast applied. And it's not like if I just apply the 2.5 multiplication to each band, I get a very different image. So I was wondering if there is some kind of pre-processing to match the tiles, maybe when the mosaicing is done. I don't know how it's visualized, but on the EO browser, it's always with perfect visualization and good color balance and everything. And the direct downloaded image doesn't have the same rendering. That was my question.
I suspect that the difference comes from the format you use to download the image, and if you use the TIFF 32-bit, it should actually be the same. So maybe you can try this and compare the results of downloading a TIFF.
But can you clarify the differences when downloading from your browser or using processing API directly?
So when the image that is visualized in the EO browser, it seems completely contrast stretched to like some kind of optimal values. When I download the image from Sentinel Hub in QGIS, for example, I can set the stretching values, I play with it to finally get something that looks as nice as in the EO browser. But by default, if I just leave it to so the images usually when you download them, they look very dark or very bright, depending on the colors. So I was wondering how it seems to be optimized in the EO browser somehow, and I couldn't find the code on your repository. So that was the question. I don't know if I made it clear.
Yeah, Gregor speaking. I think you made it clear, but I'm pretty sure that it's related to the QGIS or whatever you're using. So the images in the EO browser are not processed at all. Whatever you see there in the custom script is exactly what comes out. And so therefore, it might be that your tool is, QGIS sometimes wants to be smart and they do the auto stretching. And then, sometimes then they basically corrupt the image. So what I would suggest is that you describe the issue more details in the forum, and then we'll try to just help you on specific case basis.
Is it possible to download a collection of images selecting a range time with the browser?
No, this is not possible. You can only download one image at a time.
When will the next program interface be updated? So we are all the time updating the new features, but Daniel, you can answer this as well.
Yeah, like you already said, we are constantly in developing of your browser, and there's always some changes to be done. So we always announce them also on our social media. So there you will see when we put out a new feature or did some major changes.
I would like to know more about the time-lapse animation. You told me so you can't select different satellite images with this function. So the best to make my own time-lapse is with different images from different satellites, is to download one by one the images.
You can also use the pin story. Pin story works in a bit different way. That you can combine different satellite missions and different dates.
Yeah.
And then you just say this should go into the animated GIF. These are the two options supported by your browser. If you need something else, then you can always use the API and just download all the images and then combine them however you like.
I can select pins on the animation tab, directly from the research of the animation time-lapse.
Yeah. Not from the time-lapse, but from the Discover feature. So in the Discover pane, you can add two pins, and then from pins you create the pin story.
Okay, and also it's not possible to download the images at the research when you select, and you can filter the clouds. is it possible to download multiple images? It will be really great to make after time lapse.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we imagine, but that's currently not supported. And
Yeah.
this is why, I mean, what we do have in place is a Python library called Sentinel Hub Py, which you can, with a couple of commands, just say, I would like to download the data for that time series, well, for that time period, and then it will just call the API and download it. So, I mean, you need to use the Python, but it's really 2 lines of code.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Super easy to use.
So one more question from Ahmed. How is it possible to read downloaded TIFF image from your browser in NDVI software, by example?
So, I mean, you can download the image from your browser in GeoTIFF, and then when you have it in GeoTIFF, you should be able to easily open it in ENVI as well, if that was the question.
Can you recommend me a webinar or something to go more further, to know how to download multiple images by searching with filters like the clouds function there is in the animation tab?
There actually is a webinar already recorded for a while. It's called EOLearn Basics.
Okay.
I would recommend that you check it. I will put a link in the chat.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you all for being with us today. As mentioned during the presentation, like we said, your browser is free for non-commercial use. If you intend to dive deeper and explore other Sentinel Hub capabilities, including viewing your own configurations, and you don't have your Sentinel Hub account yet, I would encourage you to create a trial. You can also purchase the most suitable subscription if needed. And if you're conducting a research or you are in a pre-commercial exploitation phase, use the opportunity of the Network of Resources program, which are actually ESA-sponsored accounts and free access to high-resolution commercial data. I would also like to invite you to participate in our special edition of the Sentinel Hub Custom Script Contest, Urban Growth in Africa. We hope to see many of your pin stories submitted in the contest. It will start at the end of April, and more information will follow in the coming days on our contest webpage and other social media channels. And for the rest of the questions, I would invite you to our forum. Thank you all, and I hope to see you the next time.